which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Call the meeting to order, Madam Secretary. Do we have a quorum?
Indeed we do.
Thank you kindly. Who's recording?
I'm recording.
And
No streaming?
why is that? Why no streaming? Seems to me that's the way the rest of the community could join us without risking infection from COVID.
Hey, John?
Is John on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. John, can you explain why we don't do streaming?
Your owners and members are allowed to record, they can video, but no live streaming is authorized by statute or by the governing documents. And the main reason for no live streaming is that, some people may not want to be seen or may not want to be broadcast across whatever the live streaming mechanism is.
Well, if they're video recorded, they'll be seen an hour later. What's the difference?
Or statute.
Is there a law against streaming, John?
No, there's no law against it.
Okay, right.
There's no law authorizing.
Right.
There's no law authorizing.
So theoretically, we can do whatever we want to do. With COVID here, it seems to me we ought to do it.
Whatever the board wants to do, yes.
Gotcha.
I thought there was a statute.
No, the statute authorizes, John said, the statute authorizes video recording. Tape. Statute, and the only reason people can do that is because the statute does authorize it. The statute does not authorize streaming.
Nor does it prohibit.
Mr. Rankin, I have the floor. Nor do our governing documents authorize streaming.
And
If we wish to allow
neither one
streaming,
prohibits it.
if we wish to allow streaming, we have to so state in our governing documents, which would include bylaws, rules, or whatever. But they don't provide for it at this point.
I don't agree with that. If the governing documents, here's what I'm thinking. Why do we care? Why do we care if we don't, if we stream it? If we're not got anything here to hide, what do we care for? That's one thing I will agree. I don't care about if we stream it. Who cares? If people can see what we're talking about and get more information out to the public, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
The streaming I don't care about.
Then somebody should offer an amendment to the governing document.
But do we really, and I'm just asking, do we really have to amend the governing documents? If it's not, if it doesn't prohibit it, then I don't think it's an amendment. I just think it's something that there's no prohibition of it in the governing documents. It's something that the board either agrees to do or not agrees to do. I don't think it has anything to do with the governing documents. John, would you agree?
Yeah, the board can make its own rules about how its meetings are going to be handled. So it can be done by resolution, wouldn't necessarily have to amend the bylaws.
Could we just under new business have it as an agenda item tonight?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, I want to get a result now because it's either going to shut off or it's going to continue.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So you want to vote on it tonight, right
Yeah,
now?
right, well, we have to. We're going to resolve it
Yeah,
now. Yeah, I move we allow streaming.
I would second the motion. Oh, Jose second.
So, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, we call for a vote. Walt?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Done. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Done it properly.
Thank you.
I will tell you what excuse me, President. I do tell you what I do disagree with is people that are calling in that are not muting their phones.
Please mute your phones.
That we need to either cut it off or not.
Mute your phones.
Still that TV on.
Okay, good. All right, residents' comments. Yes, sir.
Jim Hodges, 182 Marble. On the right
lights throughout the neighborhood. You used to call city, and Jim Moore, they used to put a ribbon around the light post, a yellow ribbon, if the light doesn't function, so when the power company's out, they know which ones to fix. I don't see that being done, and we got a bunch of them out, and when so does the sheriff. And then the other thing is, are we gonna schedule for road paving? There used to be a fixed plan every year somebody was getting repaved. I don't see, well, I have not heard anything about it, and that's it.
I think the idea on the lights is a good idea. I don't know how many lights are still out. I do know that they've come in and repaired a number of them because we keep calling. But the idea of putting something around, but then we have to record it, so, I mean, we actually record the light number itself because Gulf Power won't come out and just go to poles that have yellow ribbons around them. You have to actually record them. We were doing that every once in a while. Do you know whether we?
They before we were required to give poll numbers to Gulf Power, security would put a yellow ribbon around and Gulf Power would take care of it. I don't know if it's only subsequent or post Gulf Power merger with Florida Power or not, but now the only lights they take care of are those where we call in the poll number. So putting the yellow ribbon around it won't get it fixed. Recording, if a resident, security makes note of these in terms of them, but if a resident sees a light now, record the number written on the pole and just call the office and tell Deborah, Wenda, or Lynn, this light is out, and they will notify our infrastructure engineer. He will notify Gulf Power in writing, and it will get done. But they're not out here tomorrow when you report it today.
No, I reported them 3 times before they finally came out and fixed the 2 of them.
Since the merger with Florida Power, they're more of a bureaucracy.
Now, this number, is this on the little badge, or is this painted on the pole, or?
The one I know about is on the badge. It's on the metal badge.
On the little metal badge attached to the post?
Yeah.
Because I'm seeing both.
Yeah, so the ones we grabbed was off the metal badge, but.
Bill, as far as communicating to the residents, if we do tie the yellow ribbon around it, they'll know at least we have officially recorded it. I mean,
Well,
reported it.
it'll be good for us.
That's what I'm saying.
Gulf Power won't do anything.
No, I know, but it lets the community know that we're doing our best.
That's not a bad idea, I suppose.
What about the
I will
roads?
tie yellow ribbons around the post.
On the roads, I don't think we have any plans on any road expenditures. The last that we did, took us through 10 years supposedly on the road maintenance. What we were trying to get done is not necessarily repaving the roads, is getting the ones that where the utility company has come in and tore them up and getting those repaired. We've had the same struggle with them as we have had with the Gulf Power. They were actually in the preserve last week and said they would work their way over here assuming the weather was good. Well, so far I haven't seen them, but that was their commitment, was to get here this week to fix it. We have the roundabout, plus there's lots of places about this big that are starting to sink. We've given them the addresses of each one of those places, and they have committed to coming in and repairing them, but obviously they haven't yet.
In some of the areas where it involves concrete, it's been reported to me that Deborah Hartzog, who is the concrete contract person for the city of Panama City, has been out here and looked at all the areas where concrete needs to be redone, but haven't seen any action yet.
Back to the roads, the only road that was being looked at for possible repair and replacement was this one that runs out here, based upon the schedule that we set up some number of years ago. But even that one has been given a pass for the next couple of years because it's not at a point where we need to spend any money on it. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm Jimmy Thompson, I live at 440 Wahoo Road. The house that we're living in, 440, is on the end of a cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac has 5 homes there. I have a neighbor who has all kinds of guests at night. They park the cars on the cul-de-sac instead of in the driveways. I've called security several times in the past few months, and there's something I would like to be taken care of. If my wife and I were getting up in age too, if we had to have an ambulance or somebody come in here, they couldn't get out for that because somebody's got a basketball goal and somebody's parked their car. You can barely get your car through there, so that's my concern. A few months ago, that was in the Bay Point paper that you could not park on the cul-de-sac if there was room in the driveway, and that was my concern.
So is security coming?
I don't know if they came or not. I called them.
Mr. Thompson, if I may, security is citing every car that we know of
Okay.
that is in the cul-de-sac, which is considered the roadway, because it's a Bay Point Road, the cul-de-sac is. If it's there after 2 o'clock in the evening. It's somewhat understood that if a vehicle, a trailer, or anything else is there after 2 o'clock, whether it be in the yard, where it's not supposed to be, it will be cited. Jim, to your knowledge, they're all being cited, okay? Yes.
Okay. I didn't know that 2, I thought it was maybe 10, I could understand.
No, it's 2 because,
Okay,
but Andrew Horvath, who is generally on at night, goes around and cites anything he sees parked on a roadway, or a trailer parked in a driveway, or a car parked on the grass.
okay.
And it doesn't matter whether there's room in the driveway or not, that's their problem.
Other questions, comments? Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda? Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion, if we may. Mr. Doug Arendt, an applicant for the seat vacated by Keith Connor, is with us. And I think it's only fair that we waive the rules and move item 11A into this spot on the agenda, just immediately preceding item 8, so that we can consider the appointment of Mr. Arendt to the board.
Do I hear any objections to that? All right, do I hear a motion to bring Mr. Eric into the board?
So moved.
Second.
I believe this has some discussion.
That's where we are.
Is Keith on the phone?
Didn't understand.
Is Keith on the phone?
No.
Correct.
He's present in the room.
No. He said it's
Keith.
Keith.
Keith on the phone. Keith.
No, Jose, he's not.
I thought he said it's he.
Okay, I believe, well, it's a moot point now, but I believe we should have had an opportunity to a member who's standing, that has done so much for the community, to have a say on whether he had extenuating reasons why he couldn't participate in the meetings, and perhaps we could have see if the board wanted to reinstate him. But given that he's not present, I guess it's a moot point because we can't ask him.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, I'll call the vote. All in favor of Doug joining our board?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Take a seat.
Come on, have a seat. Please.
welcome.
Thank you, welcome.
All right, financial reports, Ms. Denise.
The Finance Committee met on February 5th. February 1st, excuse me, February 1st, 2021. Dave Reniker reviewed the December financials. We're currently running under budget for the year. Our operating is running under budget, and our delinquencies are around 5%. Finance Committee reviewed the Lagoon Towers management contract. David and Deborah will evaluate labor hours and supplies and determine if contracted amount or terms need to be adjusted. Pollination project donation of $5,000 from Witches Bride was approved by the committee. The money will be donated by BPWC to fund the Wahoo Fence Pollinator Project by providing native vegetation to cover the new fence, which will attract hummingbirds, native bees, and butterflies. Any leftover funds will go into a pollinator account to cover future plantings. Dan Matthews briefly updated Finance Committee regarding drainage project on Wahoo and provided photos of standing water at the last heavy rain event. This project will be priority for Infrastructure Committee. Respectfully submitted to these times.
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question of the finance chairman.
Yes.
When did you envision that we take up the insurance situation? The health insurance situation? Now or later in the agenda?
We can take it up now, if you'd like to.
I think it's germane to the report.
Problem with that is there's still some information coming forward. Because you still have information coming, yep?
Yes.
I need about another week before they actually.
So
get
you
the
can table
final
it?
numbers.
Well,
Yeah.
February 15th is the drop dead date, am I correct?
And they're gonna be without insurance for approximately 2 weeks, because it can't be effective until the 1st of March. But the numbers that we have in front of us are numbers that are only proposal numbers, the real numbers are not yet ready.
Is there, this is an inquiry, is there a position we could adopt contingent on something happening so that we may not have to wait 2 weeks after the 15th?
I would agree with that.
Or, yeah,
Yeah, we don't really want them to have to, we don't want to.
Yeah.
can we adopt a resolution or a motion based on what may happen? So if it does happen, we will act. We will have acted, and the staff can,
If I might, Mr. Chair,
you know,
if people hear that we're talking in code, they have no idea what we're talking about. Perhaps we could explain to them what happened with the health insurance for our employees.
I'm gonna let Mr. Reniker explain it if you will, David.
Our annual plan is February 15th. About 4 weeks ago, we got our update for the revised New Year's plan rates from Blue Cross. And due to the fact that we've had so many employees go off of our medical plan, there was only a few of us left on the plan. And with the age mix of those left on the plan, Blue Cross seemed fit to try and hit us with a 75% increase in premiums. So at that point, I started discussions with our provider. I got it down a little bit, but the rates and that we were still being proposed by our carriers, and that were basically ridiculous rates. So the remaining employees that are currently on the insurance plan, I reached out to them to have each inquire about getting their own insurance, and then we would see what we could do with the board to see how we could continue having BPCA contribute as they currently do right now. BPCA contributes 50% of the premium for an individual plan only. And so the work that we're trying to do and finalize is getting the final premium numbers from the employees that have reached out to acquire their own insurance, see where that comes in at for each of the 3 employees, then to see what the board would be able to do to continue that payment of a portion of the premiums, and that it would then possibly be looked at through the method of a stipend added to the paycheck of those employees to cover what BPCA was basically currently covering, and that via the payment process.
So we don't have a group policy now? Okay.
What information is missing that we have to provide?
I'm still needing the premium amount from 2 of the employees, and to know what their individual premium will be.
When are you supposed to have that information?
We are trying to get that information as fast as possible. I reached out to both of them. One of them had an issue and everything in getting the documentation through to theirs, and the other individual, I talked with him, but I said I needed something in writing. That was last week. I'm still waiting on his writing to see what his premium is going to be.
So those are just 3 employees?
Correct.
that are on the plan now.
That are on the plan now, yes.
So I don't have anything finalized yet. The only thing you could do would be vote for the stipend just in case.
That's what I would propose we do if we feel comfortable doing it, so that come February 15th, if necessary, we can implement something so that people are covered, or at least they start coverage. They probably won't be covered for what is the safe harbor for 30 days or
Yeah,
something.
at least 2 of the 3 employees, and that won't have coverage until March 1.
But if we wait until the March meeting, they won't have coverage until
So
April.
what I was thinking was about the February 20th meeting.
The organizational meeting,
Yeah, it's a board meeting. I mean, the
yeah,
board
we
will be
can
there.
do that,
We do that,
but that's after the 15th.
but they're not gonna be effective until the 1st of March anyhow, right?
Yeah, the 2 are gonna be there for 15 days.
Regardless of what you do.
Even if we,
Blue Cross's BPCA policy ends next Monday.
okay, so there's nothing we can do.
No.
Gotcha.
What's the possible exposure, the outside exposure on the stipend?
I've cleared that with John Townsend, that we were covered in that to do that and proceed in that. John Townsend reached out to.
I read that. My question really was, is it $5 or $500 or $5,000 would be
It's the proposal at this moment, based on the numbers that I have at this time, is $300 a month per person.
10.8 per year.
Yeah. Which is just slightly above what they're currently being covered by BPCA anyway right now. The reason for the slight increase is insurance premium deductions, and that coming out of employees' pay is pre-tax. The stipend is not going to be taxable to those 3 employees.
Mr. Chair, if we're relatively confident that it's $350 a month for 3 people, I suggest we go ahead and authorize that. If it needs to be $365,
300 per
300 even, so we say.
okay, so just,
$900 a month, 10.8 a year.
so just do the 300, and if we have to adjust it later, so be it. Just
That would be my suggestion. So the 15, if they gotta wait 15 days from our taking action, if we can take action on February 15th, that's 5 days sooner than February 20th. I went to college for that math.
That's why you were quiet.
I went to work.
But no matter, they're still gonna be March 1st before they're covered.
Correct.
Okay.
But
What do
if-
we do about that?
If we don't do anything until February 20th, is it still March 1st or is it after March 1st?
The individuals, the 2 individuals have to personally get their own policies, and at this point in time, the effective date of March 1 is the fastest as
Well,
2 employees do.
I'm with Dan. If we can do something now, we can always rescind it.
Yeah, I agree.
But let's do something now so that on the 15th, we will have taken some sort of action.
All right, we have a motion.
Okay, why don't you codify what you
Mr. Chair, I move that the board authorize payments of $300 a month to holders of the current insurance that are going to carry insurance going forward.
Second.
So
300
discussion, that's
300.
300 piece, that's what I'm clarifying.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, any other discussion?
And just to be clear, this is only applicable to those 3 employees that are currently in the Bay Point plan, and it will only be effective if we terminate the Bay Point plan on February 15th.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, Thank you. All right, what else on the finance, anything?
No, so,
All right, on the president's report, remember that we have a meeting coming up on February 20th, so I encourage everyone to get their proxies in so that we have a quorum for that meeting. That will be tough to get there. We've scrambled in the past to get a quorum for those meetings, so we'll make sure we get that. And we got our money from the post office finally, an additional $2,000 a month. It took us 10 or 2 years to get it, but we are finally there, so. That is on a ratio, and the ratio is 4-to-1, so they give us $1 for every $4 we give them. So they're giving us $86,000, so you can see what we give them on an annual basis. And the most amount of that money comes from rental of the post office box itself, which, by the way, if you haven't seen your bill, just went up rather significantly in the coming year, so. So we're getting our share of that. So as long as that continues to ride, then we'll continue to write that number up as well. Oh, and one other thing is when Baytown actually does the destruction of the post office building, or we get a date as to the destruction of the post office building, then we'll go start looking to find out what local places that are empty that we can go lease to operate from for the period of time that the building is, the new post office is been constructed. Absolutely no timing for that. Everybody says it's gonna be 6 months, which means that's at least 8 months and maybe 9 months. So it's gonna be inconvenient for a while, so we'll start looking for that. No sense looking for it now if I can't tell when I'm gonna move into it. So we'll start looking and see what we're gonna do about that when we get a little closer.
Do we know how boxes would work in such a scenario? Will everybody have boxes, mailboxes like they currently do?
Yeah, the plan is to take the ones that we've got
Yeah.
and just replace them someplace else, probably inside a building. So when you go into an empty warehouse, as an example, those will all be lined up on a wall, and you'll just go and get your mail there. So the people will be on the other side, flipping it into the box, and those people will just do it the way we do it today.
have we had any indication of what else they're going to provide? I know Baytown's gonna provide us a space for a post office, but have they given us any indication what else they're gonna be putting in there?
Tiki bar and several retail establishments to be determined. The design on it is not finalized, so I can't say I've seen the final design. The design I've seen it's unique.
Is it nice?
It's unique.
It's got a tiki bar.
It,
Drink it, but
Whether it's good or not.
It's not distasteful.
Right,
It's,
obviously not to your liking.
it's not, yeah, it's not something I would build, right? But, it's not distasteful at all. It's the latest designs.
What makes, so I was curious,
It's boxy.
it's boxy,
It's
that was
boxy. Yeah, it's boxy. It is.
very like contemporary.
Yeah, it's the, yeah, that's right. It's very contemporary. Very contemporary. All right, thank you. Walsh.
8 Point West has a meeting planned for tomorrow night at 5 o'clock in this room, I think. Is that true, Deborah?
It is.
Okay.
I hope so.
Well, I mean, I know we saw the email asking, but I didn't get back on it to see that you said yes, it was available. And the ARC and the roads and grounds are just continuing on. ARC's busy. We've got lots of people doing lots of work. And we find a number of people for starting their projects without approval. And we've got one appeal coming from a guy who built a huge kitchen in his backyard right on the property line, and it's not connected to the house. So it's two structures, and that's not allowed. And so he's appealed it to the ARC, which denied his appeal, and then we've got another appeal to the Bay Point West Appeals Committee, which has yet to be, we don't have a date for that yet, but once that's done, then we'll see where that takes us.
Okay. Now, Mike Williams. Mr. Matthews.
All is well in communications. We're now live streaming the meetings. And IT and technology, we replaced my sticker with a headlight sticker, and you ought to see that gate jump up there. It's amazing. If you have a truck, I suggest you move the sticker down to the headlight so that you don't have to come up on the bar. And all the other IT is working peachy keen. The telephones were out for about a day, and they were restored with the usual dispatch that WOW provides us. And then to infrastructure, the engineers and I met at the top of 450 Wahoo, the cul-de-sac right down from you, to discuss putting in drainage at the height, at the top of that cul-de-sac. And after much conversation, we called Panama City Beach Utilities. They sent the water guy out. We had a long conversation about what we could and could not do out there, and the plan currently calls for us to install a drain in between 450 and 452 Wahoo. It'll be sunk underground, brought over to the side of the cul-de-sac, and it will run down the side of the cul-de-sac under the road. That would keep us from having to level a group of trees there at somebody's property. We will take out one tree in a yard that's planted in the right of way, and its roots are probably tangled in with all of the utilities that are down there. It will be a hand dig, and it will be expensive. Other infrastructure news is the engineers also met with me at the front gate, and we brought Panama City Beach water folks over there, and the decision was made that over by the firehouse there are about 6 or 7 water lines under the ground. Some of them are capped, some of them are not capped and are in use. And working with Panama City Beach, when we redo the gate, the water lines will be moved over to the other side of the road and buried in the tree line down there. We will abandon all of the other water lines, except water will be carried to the firehouse, as well as drainage out of the firehouse. And the last issue that they had to do was the placement of the sewerage pipes over at the new guard shack. For the people's edification, it's our intention to tear out the guardhouse and move it 100 feet further into the community so that we're not backing up onto Delaware Road anymore, which is incredibly dangerous up there. In addition to that, we're going to have to move all of the pipes, all of the utilities with it. We can't leave the sewerage there. It's terracotta pipe. It's no longer the code, and the minute we crack the ground, we have to replace all of the piping. So all of that's going to be repiped. We're going to move the water, and with any kind of luck, we'll also spend a minute or two trying to figure out how to keep Golf Village 1, that corner, from flooding when it rains over there. I expect that DAG is going to give us renderings for the new gate, certainly by the next meeting, and we should have the final drawings. Did I do that all right? By the next meeting as well. And that's pretty much it. Just for people's understanding, there are potholes that you see in the street. When you see a manhole, it may be sewerage, it may be water, and it may be storm water. If it's storm water, it's Bay Point's issue. If it's sewerage or clear water, it's Palm River, Panama City Beach. It's their issue to fix. So every now and again, we have a huge pothole, and we actually ask our guys that are doing work for us to dump more sand into it until the city shows up to do their responsibility and fill those things in. And I know Bill has tried ad nauseum to get the rotary fixed, or the circle fixed and paved. the last thing that we were told is they were trying to find a stamp so that they could stamp the road the way it was before. And we had to point out to them it was asphalt before, it wasn't stamped brick or anything like that, it was just asphalt. And they said, well, good, we found the stamp anyway.
I get a stamp or asphalt,
I
paint.
don't know.
Paint.
It's something to do. Answer questions. And that's my report, sir.
I'll add one piece to it. There is a study underway to put the turn-in lane into our place.
With the county, yeah.
Yes, with the county. At the same time, they repave Delwood and Magnolia Beach. So in 2029, thank you for that. I will add to your comments here at this point, because no one brought it up, and so I'll address the owner through your report.
Sure.
There is an impact study that we have been undertaking for some time that we need to restart. And that impact study, it basically says that big dump trucks and trucks of construction, et cetera, will pay an impact fee, as many associations do when they come in here. And that fund will contribute towards the repaving of our roads on a faster basis, simply because they're tearing up the roads, and therefore that money coming in is intended to help fund some of that repair. So, we had started that process, we took a break from it, now it's time to put that back on the agenda. All right, thank you.
You've got your security statistics for the month in front of you. Speeding, we're still issuing a fair number of speeding citations, but I can tell you anecdotally, and I think Jim Moore, he and I have discussed this numerous times, it is curtailing. Speeding has curtailed. It will never go away because there are always going to be people who speed, period. But it has calmed down. The school buses are, for the most part, operating within the speed limits now. Most vehicles are, most contractors are. A lot of the speeding, I think, comes from transient residents, mostly over in this area, in the Grand and the Reflections area, whether it be their ignorance or whatever. BPCA has been extremely cooperative in informing all of their guests that the speed limit out here is 20 miles an hour, not 25. So speeding is down. Illegal parking, Mr. Thompson, as you can see, we issued 46 citations for illegal parking last month. It continues to be a problem, but I'm telling you, it is enforced, or citations are written every single night. And many of your friends and neighbors can probably attest to that. If they park in the grass, if they leave a boat in their driveway, or if they park in the street. Contractors are getting much better at putting out cones and turning on their flashing lights if they don't have a cone, so that you don't run into the backup, even in the daytime. Contractors who are parking on the sidewalk on Wahoo are being cited, because if they park on the sidewalk, then a pedestrian is endangered by having to walk around the contractor's truck into the road. So, in fact, Jim and I were talking at lunch, or not at lunch, but when we made a little field trip this afternoon, that had a run-in with a contractor who was cutting trees. Jim had directed security to go out yesterday and tell him to move off the sidewalk. He was parked on the sidewalk again today, doing the same thing in roughly the same location. Jim stopped, and the guy was amazed that Jim even knew about it. Well, Jim is the one that called security to get him off the sidewalk yesterday. So we are out there working on that. We have, for whatever reason, acquired a bunch of new applicants, and security officers, not all on patrol, some on gate. And hopefully most of them will work out. You know, we run background checks, we run driving checks, and they go through a drug and alcohol screening. But we hope most of them will work out. I've met some of them, and they appear to be, some of them are very sharp, some are former police officers. Those we tend to put on patrol, and they seem to know what they're doing. Any questions on the security status before I present a motion to that?
Can I ask another question?
No, sir, it's out of order.
Okay, no problem.
I'm sorry, but
That's okay.
you can ask me after. Yes, sir. Sure, Jose, go ahead. Let me turn up the volume a little for you. Okay.
Okay, thanks. First one is, by the way, thank you for, staying on top of security. I think you're doing a great job. But I wanted to ask, on those citations for parking, like in the case of Mr. Thompson that he reported, if these are visitors and they just choose to throw away the parking ticket and not pay it, do we have a recourse to track it or to make the homeowner responsible?
Yes, if we can identify the house where they were visiting, and in most cases, if they're visitors, they get a white pass when they come in. And the residence gate, when they come in the residence gate, the number of the house where they're going or unit number of the condo are written on the white pass. So that the patrol officer who issues the citation will look in the windshield, and if he sees that white pass, he will note on the citation the house number where they are visiting. If that's the case, then if the fine is not paid by the person who owns the car, we look to the owner. Because the owners, as we've said many times in here, are responsible for their guests, their tenants, their contractors, and that's why I said, I think at the last meeting, when you call DoorDash or one of these other companies, you're assuming the liability for that driver, whoever it may be.
Good, thank you.
Yes, sir.
The other issue is associated with the circle right there on the golf course entrance.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if anybody else has given any complaints or whatever, but I have been twice about to be broadsided by people coming from the gatehouse, that they think that because they're coming from the gatehouse, they can come into the circle without having to yield to the cars in the circle. And as you know, that is incorrect. The cars come to the circle and they right away. Is there a way of putting a sign or something?
Well, there is a yield sign. There is a yield sign there. I've had the same issue. What I usually do is if I'm leaving, let's say here at the BPCA office and I'm going around the circle, when I approach the circle, I put on my left directional signal to indicate to the cars that are coming from the guard shack that I'm going to be going on and turning left there. I would like to see, and Dan, this is your purview, the yield used to be painted in the road there, big letters, I believe, or some indication of you need to yield. That painting has gone away. I would like to see the yields repainted in the road, the yield markings. That is typical in a city or county or state. So you might want to talk to John Loggeman about that. Because I think that will help. The yield sign is there, but it's not real distinctive.
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, somebody almost broadsided me, and he was a golfer that was going to the golf course. And somebody had told him about it, because he was within inches. And he was all the belligerent and, started screaming at me. The other two guys, the guys, they wanted to beat me up. So I just walked away and let it go. But, it's There's gonna be an accident there.
Yeah, I will work with Dan. I'm glad you brought that up because every time I drive through there, I think about it and then it slips my mind. But I'll work with Dan, see if we can get the infrastructure folks or the contractors to paint yield in the roads. This term is not used often these days, but when you approach that traffic circle, you need to drive defensively. Defensive driving. You shouldn't have to, but it's necessary.
Well, if that's the case, we need to get
Thank you.
You need to send everybody back to driving school. A car in the circle has the right of way, not somebody approaching the circle.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah. Just go to Paris and drive around the Arc of Triumph. If you want to know who has the right of way, the folks in the circle have the right of way.
All 37 of them.
Jose, thank you for that comment. I'm glad you brought that up. One other issue before I go to the motion that was brought up tonight. The kids out of school, their kids virtual schooling, I thought they were all back in school now, but I guess not. And they're out on the golf course, doing all kinds of mischief and whatever. Security has no rights to enforce anything on the golf course premises. We don't have a contract with them. If our guys go out there, our guys, our girls, our officers, then we are asking for trouble. If we hurt one of our patrol officers chasing someone out there, I'm not sure our insurance would be with us very long after that. If we were to, say, chase some kids in a golf cart that are on the golf course, and they run into a route where a trunk was, a hole, we're in trouble. And we are technically trespassing if we are on the golf course.
Well, technically, we are.
Yes, we are.
That's a really good point. I know owners are upset about it, and thank you for pointing that
There's,
out.
and security, Torchlight, the golf course owners, have not asked us to do anything about it.
Right.
And until they do and give us authority, one, and a hold harmless agreement, two, we can't do anything about it.
Thank you.
So it's gonna take a tragedy
Yeah,
for us to get their
Yeah.
attention.
it will take a crisis, just like we're enforcing kids having seats in golf carts, or anybody having a seat in a golf cart if it's moving. But hopefully we prevent some kid from getting hurt out here.
Maybe the parents will step up.
You think? That would be a novel idea. This is a non-parent saying that, so
Yeah.
I'm an expert on this.
Pointed that out a few times, thank you.
I have a motion, which all of you have a copy of. I'm gonna state the motion, let us get a second, and then we can discuss it. I move the Board of Directors approve the purchase of a new 2020 Nissan Frontier truck and the trade-in of our 2015 Toyota Tacoma truck with 155,000 miles for no more than a total price of $25,000, including moving of security equipment, logo painting, and all taxes, licenses, and fees. And the price should be, with all of that included, a little south of 25, but I put 25 in there. That is what we discussed with David when we did the budget. Since it's a capital expenditure, we did not budget that amount specifically, but David remembers that that's what we talked about.
I'll take
Wait
it.
a second.
I'll take it.
All right, discussion.
Our intention, Mr. Chair, our intention is to trade in one of the trucks, correct?
That's correct. Jim went down, he researched several dealers. And the best deal he found, and he and I went this afternoon on our little field trip and test drove the truck. It's better than we have now, not because it's new, it's just a better truck. It's more solid, it's got more room in the back seat. And Jim discussed with the salespeople down there a trade-in of our 2015 Tacoma with 155,000 miles, and they told Jim, and it's in writing, I have it, they are giving us a trade-in allowance of $10,000.
Was it on another Tacoma?
Pardon?
Is that Frontier?
No, it's on the Frontier, the Nissan Frontier. The Tacomas and the other trucks were far more expensive than this, and they were not willing to cut this kind of a deal.
Is it electric?
No.
Thought I'd ask that question, then we'll be on Facebook.
We do need it,
What color is it?
it's black. Just like Henry Ford's it.
Just check.
The truck we currently have, the 2015, we had planned to trade it last budget year. We took it through to this budget year, but it's at the point where the repairs are gonna eat us up on it.
Mr. Chair, I'm ready for the question.
Any other
So,
comments?
yeah, I just have a question. So the $25,000 is with the trading of $10,000,
That's
correct?
correct.
So,
Just a quick summary.
sorry.
The MSRP is 32 and change. They gave us 44.16 off, bringing the selling price to 27.8, minus the $10,000, and then you've got taxes and fees of about $2,000, which comes out to $20,324. But then we've got to move all that equipment. We're also going to, from an aftermarket place, we looked at them on the internet today, buy some seat covers so that the seats don't get torn up. Because the guys get in the truck, they may have been chasing a dog or whatever, they're dirty, they may have put the dog in the truck,
Right,
a runaway dog.
a lot of that.
So we're gonna spend some money getting seat covers, moving all the equipment from the Tacoma onto the Frontier, putting the radio equipment in, rewiring, all that stuff.
Can I ask a question? What are the repairs running now, this year?
David, what are we?
They've picked up here in the last couple of months, like you said. We're right now between, it's hard because I don't see what truck the repairs are going, the receipts that come to me, I don't look out into that level. But our repairs are starting to climb to $1,000 a month between the trucks right now.
And it's mostly on this truck 2015 truck.
The other truck is about 4 or 5 years.
The other truck's a 2016,
So it'll be a while before we actually.
another year or two. But since the 2016 has been getting most of the mileage recently because that's what the officers prefer to drive because it's more reliable.
Yeah, I did a little math problem, because I was looking at 155,000 miles in 5 years, and I'm thinking, that's crazy. But it only comes up to 3.5 miles per hour. So, in other words, they drive 3.5 miles. I mean, if you were to take this as per every hour.
Oh, per every
around,
hour.
yeah, every hour.
24 hours a day.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to figure out how many, so.
And these are hard miles because it's stop and start constantly. And our roads, as Dan mentioned, it's not like driving on the turnpike. These things are bumpy.
I agree with
Last
Dan,
time
I'm
you were
ready
on the
for
turnpike.
Going over all those speed humps and stuff, yeah.
All right, I bring it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.
Jim, you got the word. Good negotiating.
No report on stakeholders, Reggie, I don't see Reggie here tonight, so, Deborah?
I have nothing to add to my report that was handed
Well, why
out.
don't you just discuss your report real briefly?
Okay. One of the duties and responsibilities of our office is to do an appeals committee for anyone who wishes to appeal a citation or something like that. We have an appeals process. The process is, send me an email. When I receive your email with the citation number, I respond and let everyone know what the process is. Then we schedule our meetings. We've had a lot of problems over the past, I would say, 4 to 6 months trying to get consistent meetings scheduled because of illness and other reasons. So some months we've had to combine them. We had holidays, December and November, December. So normally they are once a month, the last Thursday of each month, and normally we're doing fine. So this past month we had an owner who requested to reappeal a citation that was already heard at an earlier appeals meeting that was upheld. The duty of the appeals committee is either to uphold the citation or throw it out. They are not allowed to alter it in any way. Uphold it or throw it out, that's it. So this person brought their citation to an earlier meeting and the committee upheld it. And she has the right, you have the right to bring a citation back to the committee as many times as you wish. So she came back a second time and the committee this time voted. It's a 3-person committee and it is a vote every single time on every single citation. And the committee this time voted to overturn the citation because they felt it was improperly written. The first time they were focusing on the fact that it was a piggyback situation. The person admitted to piggybacking, but the citation was not written strictly as a piggyback, which is a different fine altogether. It had 2 different offenses on the citation, and therefore that's why she brought it back. I believe they did the right thing. The citation was overturned, and there's nothing else we can do about it. I had a conversation with our attorney to just figure out, where we go from here. If we do something like that, can we write another citation that is appropriate? And the answer to that is no, you cannot do that because it is against the law, basically, and she could sue us. So justice was served. She came back a second time. They readdressed it. They did a really good job, and they threw it out. And that was it. That's the first time we've ever had something
Just a
like that
question,
happen.
was it the same 3-member panel, or was it a different 3-member panel?
Actually, it was the same 3-member panel because at this particular point in time, we only have 4 members to choose from. We've lost a couple members. Yeah, but it,
Well, I mean,
it
I
was.
think that's good. It was the same 3-member panel that reconsidered their decision previously.
Correct. Well, and it was a different view this time. Last time the focus was on piggybacking. This time it was literally on the way that the citation was written and the charges, and it was miswritten.
You said the fine for piggybacking is different than the collision with security gate?
Correct.
How much is the fine for piggybacking?
$250.
It's $250.
Okay. I'm looking here, I'm looking, I don't see it on the back.
Well,
The back of the thing there, I don't see piggybacking.
Piggybacking is considered illegal entry or exit.
Oh, okay.
So what do we do
Number
with the citations, the actual forms?
Okay, so our citations, a couple months ago, we went through a review of our citations, and we went through every single thing, trying to figure out how we could make it easier for the patrol to write citations to avoid situations like this. This particular citation was written on the old citation, so it was subject to interpretation by the patrol officer. He could write down whatever he wanted to. Our new citations are under the violation. The patrol is given a choice of numbers between 1 and 15, which are all of our violations and their fines taken straight from our governing documents, and they're all assigned a number. So if they stop someone, they can go to the back and select the number that fits the offense, and they write that number down without having to write in what they feel or what they see, or even a confusing, like 2 different offenses. They can add 2 offenses, but I think in this particular case, they would have to choose one or the other, because you can't piggyback and deliberately hit a gate, you know what I mean? So, the new citations are working a lot better. They've also added space to gather the name and address and all the mailing information from the person that is stopped. A lot of that was absent in the old citations. They're more thorough. A lot of it now is just like under illegal parking, the patrol can just go in and put a check mark next to the conditions that car, or that he's parking, like he's parking in a no parking zone, or it was a construction vehicle without cones, or he was out of driveway on the grass. He doesn't have to write anything. It's check, check, check. So it's less time consuming for them and much easier for the staff to process them and get them set out appropriately with the appropriate fines attached. And not only that, but when someone receives a citation, they have all the fines on the back of the citation, like you would with a ticket that you received off property. So it's looking much better. Much better.
Can I ask a question? Deborah, you mentioned that you were short on the appeals committee. There was only a shortage. There was only 3. How many people do you like to have on staff to rotate?
It's good to have. I think 6 is a good number.
6, but you only have 3, or we only have 3.
Correct.
You
Well,
know,
we have 4. We have 4.
Are you looking for extra,
We
or is that enough?
well, we're always looking, to fill it up. Yes, we do need to supplement that, but board members or family members of board members are not eligible to sit on that
Correct.
particular
I mean,
committee.
I was just thinking there's an exorbitant amount of people on social media that are looking for ways to get involved in the community.
And we have a few of them.
And where would they want to sign up, and they don't know where to go? Where would they call?
Just call the office and ask to speak with
For
me.
okay. Perfect. Perfect.
Last year, the way Mr. Wayner did it was, he said anyone who has written on Facebook, he wanted me to give them a list.
Right.
So I
I mean,
wrote a
there's a lot of people
we addressed.
they seem so heartfelt with their enthusiasm to get involved in the community. I thought that would be a great way for them to get involved. Thank you very much.
Good, thank you. Any other questions? All right, no new business. Welcome, sir, to the board.
Mr. Chair,
If there be nothing else,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to recommend that we ask a small committee to get together and establish rules for streaming our meetings. And in order to do that, I think we need to consider the time to come in and set up to do the streaming, so it's done before the meeting and not during the meeting. And that another rule is that we won't accept questions and dialogue from a streaming setup. Another is that access will be made to the community so that we can post it to the website so people who don't use social media can have access to a stream meeting. I'd like to put together a group of 3 to do that. I'd ask Jen to serve on that, Jen Shook, who's been doing this work, myself, and we'll scare up one more person to propagate a rule, and then we'll bring it to the board for consideration.
under your leadership as the communications chairman, I certainly think that'd be appropriate.
Is that a motion?
You know,
It doesn't need to.
That's fine. Excellent,
You're on.
excellent.
Yeah, that's.
Anything else?
We scared her.
That's a good
Anything
idea.
else before the board? Or a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Thompson, you had a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry, this wasn't appropriated. That's not.